Hi, my name is Maya, and for my disability investigation, I did hearing impairments. So some of the characteristics of a student with a hearing impairment is that they have an impairment in hearing, whether permanent or fluctuating, that adversely affects a child's educational performance. This is different than deafness because deafness would be a loss of all of its hearing, while someone with a hearing impairment still has some hearing. And the severity of the hearing impairment can be categorized as slight, mild, moderate, severe, or profound. And someone with a hearing impairment can have problems with hearing loudness or pitch. It can also affect each ear differently. And sometimes the severity of the hearing impairment may fluctuate day to day or throughout the semester. Hearing impairments can be caused by a genetic factor, infections, developmental factors, and or a traumatic event. So because there are so many different ways that someone can obtain a hearing impairment, that also means there's lots of different ways that a hearing impairment can present itself. So it's important to know your student and their abilities and to come up with a plan. So some of the abilities of someone with a hearing impairment, unless it's paired with another disability, they have an unimpaired cognitive ability. They also may excel with visual learning. They may be good at focusing because they're not having any auditory distractions. And depending on the case, they may use sign language to communicate in school or at home. Some learning challenges that can arise are effects in English literacy, especially in those who have had hearing impairments from an early age, because as they were learning their English, they were missing some of their auditory important strategies with that. They also may prefer visual learning strategies, which can be a challenge in a classroom when you have to as a teacher, teach for all types of different strategies in students. They may also prefer to work alone, as there are some challenges in communication with their peers. That can be a challenge in a classroom where students are asked to work in groups or with pairs. They may also have a challenge in the time it takes to get content knowledge, because if they need to take all of their lectures home and transcribe them from audio lectures, or read all of their printed lectures, or re-watch videos and lectures at home, that's going to take a lot more time, and it can take longer for them to obtain some of the content knowledge. And they may also just miss instructions or content during class times, even with all of the modifications and accommodations, and that can be a challenge to know what they're missing. Some behavioral challenges that may occur are mostly frustration that happen when a student is not able to keep up with their peers. So that's just regular communication with a teacher or peers can be quite frustrating. And as a teacher, you want to make sure that you are helping that student with their frustration, and help prevent some of that frustration by having accommodations. And then there's difficulty in getting that student's attentions if they are missing auditory cues, because a lot of the times teachers get attention of a class by grabbing their attention with their voice. So they may miss the attention getters, or they have difficulty maintaining attention, paying attention throughout the class, as it is more difficult to pay attention for a longer period of time when a student is trying really hard to keep up with when they have a hearing impairment. So they may be more likely to lose attention, have a shorter attention span. Some effective teaching strategies that teachers can use are to encourage the student to sit near the front of the classroom. That helps because they will be closer to the teacher, so that the volume of the teacher will be a little bit louder. They will also have an unobstructed view of the board, especially when they are more reliant on the visuals. And if there is an interpreter or they are lip reading the teacher, you'll also want them to be closer to that person to be able to see better and be more successful. The teacher will want to try to face the class or the student when speaking. That's important because it'll help project your volume from the teacher, and it will also help the student, if they lip read and see your facial expressions, to know the pace of what's going on. You also want to make sure the class is well lit so that the students are able to see the board, see your face, and see what you're saying. Some technologies that you can use is a microphone that'll amplify your volume, or a recording device will record your lectures for that student to take home and review if they need to and transcribe. There's also technology that a teacher can speak into a microphone and it will act as a transmitter, and then the hearing aid of a student will be a receiver, and so you're talking directly and amplifying your voice into the student's ears or through a hearing aid, which is quite cool. Another strategy is to have all of your information on a handout. That is so you can give it to the students, they can take it home and have it without worrying about missing any auditory clues or content. And to use captions on videos is important. For most students, it is also more helpful. And another way to help with videos is to give the link and access to the video to the student, and they can follow along with earbuds that can pause it if they need to review something or read something, and they can also turn up the volume if that helps them with their hearing impairment. You always want to make sure you're checking in with your student to find out how you can help them be successful in the classroom, and to make changes if something isn't working. Some behavior management strategies that you can take to your class are to encourage a student to work with a partner or group for classwork, but be prepared to give the option for the student to work alone. I would encourage you to not force the student to do anything that they find extremely difficult, because I'm imagining at high school level, I would rather that student be able to participate even if he's doing it by himself, than shutting down and not gaining any of the material. So as a teacher, I want to be prepared for a day that a student does not want to participate, but I would give them resources to be able to participate in a group situation by providing a separate space for the group. That will help eliminate background noises that can be distracting or make it difficult to hear, and give that group extra time if they need it, because they might be moving at a slower pace than the rest of the class. For the individual student, you want to make accommodations to due dates, because remember, they might be going home and working extra to learn the content, such as reviewing their notes and transcribing them, or re-listening to audio lectures. So that may require some more time for them to be able to complete classwork or homework. So to work with your student to know the pace of their work and make accommodations to due dates. For the demonstration, you can look at this picture. Imagine you are sitting in the point of view of a student with a hearing impairment, and try to think of, before looking at the answers, some ways that the teacher can be a little more effective in helping the student. So one of the things the teacher can do is to face the students. I know that a lot of the times in classrooms you can't always be facing the student, but one thing that will help is if, for example, this teacher had typed up all of the notes that he wanted to go over, so instead of turning around to write the things on the board, he can just click through a PowerPoint, which requires a lot less time of not facing the class, and then he can be talking towards the class a lot more. Good lighting is important to be able to see what's happening on the board, and the teacher's face. This student is sitting in the back of the class. Even if the classroom was well lit, he has a lot of heads in his way that could be distracting and could be blocking things from the board. So you want to encourage the student to sit towards the front of the classroom. Some things you can't tell from the picture but are still important is a classroom script or pre-printed notes for that student, and to put all the instructions on the board if they're working individually. That is a tool that helps most students in the class make sure the teacher doesn't have to say the instructions again and again. It's just to type them all up and project them on the board and talk them through it. But then they can review it at their own pace when they need to. For the quick reference, I have linked it in the Google Drive, and it covers the characteristics and abilities of a student with hearing impairment, some learning challenges and teaching strategies, and some behavior challenges and some management strategies that you can use. And I also have some resources that you can review to learn more about hearing impairments, and these are the ones that I used for this lecture. Thank you.